Good morning. Those of you who may not know me, my name is Ken Weidinger, and I am the chair of the Executive Council at Christ Church. And on behalf of the council, I'd like to thank you for participating in this annual meeting of the church. It's important work that we do here today as we reflect on the past and also imagine the future ministries at Christ Church. As we prepare to hear from Pastor Ed and others about our ministries from 2020, I'd like to ask you for just a moment to reflect on what that year was like for you. What was the strange and the unusual about 2020 for you, and what was the normal and expected? What are the highlights of that year for you, and what are the lowlights? Imagine the entire congregation doing the same as we listen to a reflection on what our ministries were like in 2020.
With our worship ministry this year, we've obviously, shifted a lot. From when we started out, the year was a year kind of as normal. And then as we got pretty quick into Lent, we obviously shifted because of the pandemic. With what we did initially was partnering with 3 other congregations, First Presbyterian and then St. John Bellevue and St. John's Newport, to share our worship together, to use the resources that we had from 4 different congregations to bring all of that together. And I am deeply grateful for the people, pastors, musicians, administrators who helped make all of that happen, volunteers, and just we're so grateful for that. We continue to shift as we got back in person for a period of time in September through November. And then as the pandemic spiked back up again in the latter part of the year and into the first part of 2021, went back online. And one of the things I just simply want to share is we have reached a lot of people over the last year. We have connected people who are watching regularly. We can see on the stats on YouTube and Facebook of people not just here locally, but people throughout the country. We've had people who felt somewhat more disconnected from the church, who were unable to be in worship in years past, who've been able to jump in and be a part of what we're doing because of us being online. And so I anticipate we'll have some form of online worship continuing even once we are back to in-person consistently together.
Most would agree that the largest percentage of the music ministry involves worship and the preparation for those services. The chancel choir is one aspect, along with solos, both vocal and instrumental. Within the choir, we share small group experiences, a camaraderie we share to the point of having to reel it back in. Often in rehearsals, they're having so much fun. At my expense, of course. The chancel choir continued an online fellowship of emails and sharing prayer requests to maintain those close associations with Christ Church during the pandemic months. The choir also began a practice before the pandemic of celebrating monthly the birthdays in the month. Jenny Herman and Emma Hammond worked to make these celebrations occur and to organize the food and the great fellowship for the night. Our prayer time at the end of each rehearsal is meditative, meaningful, as we listen to what prayer needs are requested for the week, the worries and concerns for themselves, their families, our church family, and friends. We do have great discussions on texts of what we are singing and why the composer of the music wrote it the way they did to bring that text to life. Outreach and collaboration through the years with musicians have been numerous, from the brass ensemble at the University of Louisville, Morehead State University's choir, Highlands High School choir, the Northern Kentucky School of Music Children's Choir, Symphonia Strings, and various guest singers from the area. This year, we have been given an extraordinary opportunity with virtual worship services to reach members of our community, our state, our country, and even the world. We may never see the seeds that were planted, but God knows. In 2020, Talia, Max, and myself have incorporated music into the virtual services since the pandemic began, with a shutdown beginning on March 15th of 2020. For 27 weeks, we recorded for virtual services only. Then for about 2 months, we returned to in-person services, but at the same time, continuing to record weekly virtual services. By the time you see this report, it will have been a total of 50 weeks that the music teams provided. Preludes, postludes, solos, hymns, contemporary Christian songs or choruses, classical, variety of music in a variety of styles. The Wednesday music moments came about during this pandemic from March through Labor Day, including Talia, Max, and myself. Once the pandemic shut us all down, we were collaborating with Fort Thomas First Presbyterian, St. John's Newport, and St. John Bellevue. Wonderful services and great music across the board. For Advent, we joined St. John Bellevue to produce 4 virtual choir anthems. So much collaboration with Talia, Max, Steve Malloy, and Ed, and their fantastic computer skills. Christmas Eve, you heard violin, trumpet, piano, organ, orchestral, Talia's wonderful voice studio members, Christmas carols, and we closed with our traditional favorite, Silent Night. Stille Nacht, Heilige Nacht, with candles lit, accompanied by Max on guitar, the way it was first sung with the composer Franz Gruber on Christmas Eve of 1818. Blessings and honor, glory and power be unto you, O God. And as Johann Sebastian Bach always signed his multitude of compositions, Soli Gloria Deo, to God alone be the glory.
Good morning. I'd like to share with you a little bit about Christian Ed in 2020. The year began pretty normal down in the Sunday school room. We were doing lessons on the Beatitudes each week. The kids were having a lot of fun with that. We made brownies for Hosea House, and we had just begun doing some lessons on Lent, where we were making crosses. The children were painting and coloring and getting really creative to mimic what was being done up here in the parlor with Howard Storm's display. And then the pandemic hit. As the pandemic began, we had to shift to find new ways to connect. The children began receiving packets through the mail with coloring pages to be mailed to members living alone or in assisted living facilities. The children got really into this. They did a wonderful job of coloring those pictures and sending them on. The first week, I began creating videos of books and reading to them. I selected books to bring comfort and reassurance during the challenging time. The summer brought a new curriculum called Compassion Camp. I did bi-weekly mailings and weekly video lessons to accompany Compassion Camp. It was a wonderful time, and the children seemed to really get into that. In the fall, with families getting back to school, we put a stop to the mailings for a little while, and instead I delivered Padrino's Pizza, owned by a member of our congregation, salad, and a devotional written by Pastor Ed for that first week back to school. It was very well received, and I want to mention that was also sent to our educators in the church. As fall progressed, we did things pretty simply. I delivered papier-mâché pumpkins with Sharpie markers for families to record and focus on their blessings during the season of gratitude. It was a time for them to focus on God's gifts in our lives amongst all the challenges. In December, I enlisted the help of many in the congregation and staff to paint and create nativity sets for each family with young children in the church. December also brought our Christmas program, where Pastor Ed and myself worked together to arrange times and have families come to the church to record one at a time. The year was very different, but we managed to have meaningful interactions with our children and families throughout. The goal was to provide love and support to them while keeping us all connected as a church family.
Discipleship is a lifelong journey. It's something that, yes, we do as children, but it is also something that's a part of who we are as youth and as adults. So we've continued in 2020 to work with the Illumination Youth Ministry Group as we've partnered with other congregations in sharing youth ministry led by Melanie Sorrell. And they were, like everything else, having to adjust to the different realities of the pandemic. And so spent a lot of their time working online with one another. But they've had a few in-person events as well. for which we're grateful, and ways that our kids have been able to come together with not just kids within this congregation, but also with other congregations to share and to grow in their faith. As adults, we also shifted to primarily things a lot online, and so we continued the Sunday morning Bible study that has normally met, but we tried a few other things along the way. Some short-term ones, some ones that have sort of been ongoing at different points. Some have worked, some haven't, and that's part of this time that we're in, where we try things and some succeed wonderfully and some things don't, and we learn and we go. But that's one of the areas I am passionate about as a pastor, is how are we seeking to grow deeper in our faith? It's much more than just worship, but it is also in how we are digging deep into Scripture and into situations in the world with the Scriptures, with one another, and to see how God continues to speak. So I invite you, if you've not participated in some of the discipleship ministries over the last year, jump in to some of the opportunities that we're still online right now, but hopefully as the year goes further along, that we'll be getting to be able to have more things in person once again.
I'm Melissa Cox, a member of the mission team at Christ Church, here to report on the activities of that team during 2020. We started out with a speaker series and a meal at Jose House and a bingo event at Brighton Center senior residence. And then in March, we had to change our plans quite a bit and support our organizations in different ways due to COVID. So starting then, we advanced some funds to Brighton Center, as well as Jose House and Washington UCC, to help them in the different ways that they were serving their populations. We provided takeout containers for their carry-out meals. Things were being done very differently, and so we were able to be flexible as well and meet the needs that their population, their communities had due to the devastating effects that COVID had on those communities. In addition, we provided toys and funds for Washington UCC so that they could provide a different kind of summer program, but still a summer program, so that the children in Camp Washington were able to keep up with their school skills and also learn about Jesus during the summer. We had a blood drive for Hawksworth, and we started some missions internationally by providing hygiene kits and school supplies, and also some staples to Belize that was hit by a hurricane. And all of this was made possible by your incredible generosity during the year, and we thank you so much for enabling us to be able to support all of these global and local missions.
Hi, my name's Jane Petracco, and I've been asked to describe the church card ministry that my sister Ellen Turner and I do at Christ Church. So the way it works, we keep in touch with the lifeline of Christ Church. That would be Ed Good as pastor. And then another very important member is Linda Gracie. She would be the lifeline of our church when it comes to reaching out to people. So Ellen and I keep in touch with Linda Gracie, and on a weekly basis, we send cards of friendship, sympathy cards, get well cards, anything that is a way to keep in touch with our members of the church. So Ellen and I take turns sending these cards out to all the members, and we truly hear so much good feedback that people really enjoy getting these cards. And we probably send about 5 cards out each week. So over a year's time, that's probably in the range of 250 cards. And we think, oh, they don't even know, but they really appreciate these cards that we send. We hear from people by phone. When they see us, they say, oh, we love the card and we appreciated it so much. So we feel like it has turned into a vital ministry and a way to stay connected with the people at Christ Church. We thank Linda Gracie and Ed Good. They give us the updates on this person. We would appreciate if you would send them a card. They would love to hear from the people at Christ Church. If you've had a surgery, or if you've just been away from church for a while, we'll send you a card to tell you we miss you, and just we stay in touch through our card ministry at Christ Church. So I hope maybe I'll be sending you a card before too long. And that's the way Christ Church card ministry works. Thanks. Have a great day.
Good morning. I want to give you all a summary of last year. We all know that it was a very difficult year with all the COVID restrictions. And we've only worshiped together for about one half of the year. With that being said, we had a good year financially, and because of the generosity of our congregation, Christ Church is in a sound and solid position going into 2021. We actually had a surplus. That is deceiving because we also benefited from a $42,000 grant from the government for our payroll. The positive are, first, we were on track for our giving. We had budgeted $230,000 for pledge and anticipated pledge giving. We actually received $233,000 for giving, so we exceeded our pledges. Again, that is because we have a church family that is so giving and responds to our call for help. For the year, our expenses were exactly what we budgeted, $343,000. Our income was $356,000, giving us a $13,000 surplus available for 2021. Again, realizing that we benefited from the PP grant. That money from the PPP grant allowed us to avoid pulling any of our money from our reserves. We have $60,000 remaining in our capital campaign fund, with 2 years left for the remaining pledges. Our legacy fund had a year-end balance of $1,745,819. We paid down most of our debt, but we still owe $197,000, and we are making our monthly payments from the interest from the legacy fund. So from the finance board, we thank everyone for their support and commitment to Christ Church. I promise you, a lot of treasurers from other churches cannot make that statement. We are blessed to be so financially sound as we are. Thank you.